Antarctica and the 24-hour sun. Yes, the people that went to Antarctica and got the video footage of the 24-hour sun actually did go to Antarctica, and you can check out David Weiss's information on debunking all the false claims that they didn't go. So for this video, we're going to talk about how that actually works, a 24-hour sun in Antarctica within the Earth realm, which is a torus field. First, we're going to start with a couple basics, and then we'll move on to the torus. Basic movement of the sun, if you are standing in South America down here, and the sun is down here in Capricorn. This is the Tropic of Capricorn right here, and it's called Capricorn, the goat, because this is where the sun starts to climb back up the vortex on December 21st. So the goats climb the mountain. So this is the Tropic of Capricorn, and the placement in the sky we call Capricorn. Not to be confused with constellations. That is not the proper system. So the compass will face north to the magnetic center of the torus, the dielectric core here in the center. So the compass will face north. So when these people witness the sun rising here in the east at noon, their compass will face north, and then the sun moves around this way, and they will have about 20 hours of sunlight, and the sun will set over here and then rise over here, and they'll start to see the sun again. So these people in South America here. Now, the further they are away from this concave part of the sun's movement, the wider their field is to be able to see more. So as it comes in this way, it's convexing towards them. As it moves away, it's in the concave part, and they're able to have more field of vision. Now, once we get over here to where the guys went, this is a general estimate of where they were. It was almost to Capricorn, not quite there. It was almost there. They saw the sun convex in this way, and their compass faced north to the noon sun. And then the sun moves around like this. Now, the people in South America, their noon sun will face north on the compass, but also their midnight sun will face north. So that compass is just pointing right towards this dielectric center. So both positions will face north. Now, what these guys experienced, though, was their noon sun faced north. Sun moves around like this, and what they experienced and what they saw is then the sun went this way, and their compass faced south to the midnight sun. In reality, the sun was over here in Australia at noon, while they saw a south sun over here at midnight. So let me draw that out. So let's draw the circles so it's a little bit easier to see this way. If you spent any time on my channel, you can already see what formation this is making. But this is going to be the sun at noon. This is going to be the north, and this will be Australia over here, and their noon. So the people here in South America, they see a noon sun, their compass faces north. The people here in Antarctica also see this noon sun, their compass faces north. The sun continues on like this way. Okay, so now Australia has a noon sun. Their compass, which is now their midnight sun, still faces north. But what happened for Antarctica is they started witnessing the sun moving this way. And what they got was the midnight sun in the south. The compass faced south. In reality, the sun is actually over here at noon in Australia. So how is it that they're able to see a south midnight sun? Okay, off the top, you see this diverging, converging of a torus field. The way the torus field works is diverging centrifugal force away from the center and converging centripetal force into the center. So off the top, we're witnessing the flow of a torus field. But how is it do we see this? How does this make sense? Okay, we'll get to that. All right, we have to take a step back and look at Stan Tenon's extensive work using scientific method to show that the first 10 words of the Bible, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In Hebrew, the shapes of the letters form a torus field. His work is really important in understanding that the Bible is coded in a way to explain a functioning torus field. His work is very extensive over decades and decades. He died in 2022, January 30th, but his work is at the core of understanding our earth realm.
Torah is so unique, it can only be compared to itself. So I decided to compare it to itself. Seemed reasonable. How do you compare a text to itself? Well, now are we back to literary criticism? Should I look at the first story in Genesis of the creation and the second and compare how they differ? Well, that's already been done. It wasn't very satisfying. And besides, it didn't give me anything new to work with. I'm looking at the letters. So I said, what would happen if I compared the letters to themselves? And that's what I did. You know how you make a paper doll or a paper airplane? Take a piece of paper, and you stick tab A into slot A, and then you put tab B into slot B, and tab C into slot C. You auto-correlate it. You correlate it with itself. Tab A with slot A, tab B with slot B. And the piece of paper folds up, hopefully, into the model it was intended to make. And so I decided to fold up this string of letters in such a way that letters that were the same were going to be next to each other. I wrote the letters out, one each, on a bead chain, in the order that they were written in the text. So you could literally hold out the bead chain and read the first verse of Genesis. And then I took the bead chain and curled it up on itself so that the same letters lined up. Now, I'm going to hold up the pattern that we got when we associated the letters slot A in tab A, tab B in slot B, etc., just like the paper pattern. And as you can see, all the letters are accounted for. They're all paired up. And if they're not paired with the same letter, like slot A and tab A and slot B and tab B, they're paired with letters that are in symmetrical positions in the alphabet. So there's a very basic, simple rule that enables all the letters of the first verse to be self-connected, just like the tabs and slots. The reason I started it here, rather than on the edge someplace, is because I realized this was on the surface of a donut, which one could pull through. And I didn't want these lines to cross over in funny ways, so I simply rotated it through itself. But if it were on the surface of a donut, then that would all work as one unit. And so that's what the first verse of Genesis draws. It draws a kind of donut called a two-torus, a two-dimensional surface on a torus. So we've now identified the first verse of Genesis. It folds itself up into a donut. This is the bagel theory of reality. You just peel the 7-color map off of the donut, and you have a little vortex. This is the definition of the donut. You don't need the rest of the donut. Mathematicians don't need the dough. They just want to know what the surface is, how it all fits together. Don't. And what we found, and this is really quite startling, is when we simplified it mathematically, we ended up producing a form that looked just like this.
This is the form we actually made. This is a minimal geometric way to represent the way the first verse of Genesis forms itself when its letters are paired up, just like making a paper model.
From decoding the Torah, this is Stan's model of the universe, and you can see the earth plane here, and you can see that his model fits right within this vortex here of the torus field. Now, what is down here on the earth plane and above the earth plane is what we call the expanse. Now, biblically, it's called a firmament, but nowadays we've been fed these visions that a firmament is some sort of solid barrier that is domed over our head. But that's not exactly true. The firmament, it just means the expanse. So it's the expanse within the torus field. So I'm going to draw a picture of that. So if we have the top of the torus field and this vortex, this diverging centrifugal force going out, we would have the expanse here. Okay, this is where Earth would be. Now the expanse is going to go in this circular form because it's going to match within the bounds of the torus field. Because as the energy converges back in, it creates a specific form. It doesn't go out forever. So within the expanse, our Earth, we also have our luminaries, our stars, sun, and moon are within the expanse. As we listen to Stan Tenen explain how the Bible is coded and is explaining within it a torus field, let's relook at this passage, these two passages. Genesis 1, and God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament." So we have flow, like water, a flow. Centripetal into the center, converging magnetism, and centrifugal diverging magnetism. So flow out this way, around, and flow back in to the dielectric core here in the center. This core expands out to the parameters of the torus, making this round shape. So it's the expanse, because this energy here in the center, which is inertia, energy at rest. Another way to say it, when you're resting, you're not dead, but you're slowed. So energy here in the center is in this slowed state. If you think of like an hourglass, it would be where the sands in the hourglass start to slow right here. But it's expanded out to the width of the torus. And God made the firmament, which is the expanse. This is what firmament means, and divided the waters from the waters above. This is flow of magnetism. Next step to understand is that the torus exists because of a vibration. So there's a vibration or field perturbation at the center, at the dielectric center, which causes a sound, which then causes illumination. And this happens because of the ether and is within the ether and is the ether.
People don't get this for some odd reason. When Nikola Tesla says light is a sound wave in the ether, he's using the best analogy possible because sound is a perturbation in the medium. Sound is not an emission, it's not a particle. Sound has a frequency too. High frequency, low frequency. Same as light. So the perfect analogy is exactly what Nikola Tesla said. Nobody really ever quotes this from Nikola Tesla, and it's so incredibly important, and nobody seems to understand it. The very best, most perfect analogy is that. Light is a sound wave in the ether. Light is not an emission. Light doesn't have a speed. Sound doesn't have a speed either. Sound is the maximum rate of induction of the medium against itself, or the hysteresis of the medium. Yeah, the hysteresis of the medium in the ether is what we call c, speed of light. So that's not a speed, though, it's a rate of induction. You see, light slows down when it passes through water or glass. Sound actually changes speeds or rates of induction when it encounters extremely dense air, what's cold air, versus very hot air, which is rarefied, or fog, countless things.
So everything is due to a vibration or field perturbation. So we have the expanse here in the center, and then we have the torus like this. The sun, moon, and stars, which we experience within the expanse here, is only one part of the totality of the sun, moon, and stars. They're actually existing out within the torus field out here as well. So let's put a sun here. So what we experience within the expanse is an apparent sun to what's happening outside of the expanse, but it's still functioning within this field. And how we know that is because how we experience the way the sun moves within the expanse is in this cone shape. So we call this the Tropic of Capricorn down here. And we have a direct mirror of what's happening to this field perturbation, this vibration, which causes a sound. So it's a specific hertz out here, and we experience it in here. So let's just take the sun and put it at the very extremity of the torus out here. Let's put it out here, the very extremity of the torus at the top in the heavens, the heaved up place. We will experience that within the expanse down here at the wide part of the earth. And this will be the apparent sun that we see moving along the Tropic of Capricorn. Now let's move to what Ken Wheeler has to say about torus field.
So nothing more brilliantly explains it than that of what magnetism actually is. When I gave a lecture on magnetism, I had my notes on this little clipboard, and on the back of it I had some of these pictures that I took of the magnetic field. And you got the nice little black hole there in the center of either quote-unquote pole of a magnet, and people always make that black hole analogy and comparison. And if you actually have the correct primer for the universe, or the legend, kind of like the legend on a map, you can understand all of what magnetism is.
Kind of the reason why 95% of the Earth's life exists along the plane of inertia that is the Earth. This is the plane of inertia. It's the lowest pressure mediation that's extant between centrifugal divergence and centripetal convergence. It is literally the lowest pressure mediation, or the calm zone, between centrifugal divergence and centripetal convergence. And it is this simplex geometry right here. This is the geometry of space right here. These are the vectors of center field of divergence. This is the vectors of counter space right here, counter space. Vectors of counter space, and this is the opposite of both, and this is where this shit happens. Yeah. Genesis. And Genesis, of course, always starts right here. Yeah. Genesis starts here, and it grows here. Yeah. Take a look at that closely, because this is the diagram of the entire universe. All experiences in life, including life itself, comes out of a whole, right? The ears, the eyes, the nose, you know, various orifices down below, yeah. That all comes from right here. It starts here, and it flourishes here at the plane of inertia. This is the two-dimensional. Of course, life is not two-dimensional, nor is center field of divergence, because, as I've told you countless times, the vectors of space is a three-dimensional S-curve. Yes?
So let's draw it a little bit better. Here's the torus. Here's the expanse, Earth, which includes the sun, moon, and stars that we see, and includes the level plane where our feet are at. So if I was to put the sun up at the extremity of this torus, so this would be a specific frequency within the torus field, we would experience this down in, we'll call this the Tropic of Capricorn. Here. So when this frequency is here within the torus, we would experience this at the equator. Going down, this would be called Libra. When it's down here, we would experience it at the Tropic of Cancer. Tropic Capricorn, equator, Tropic of Cancer. And then going back up here would be Aries at the equator going up. Remember, these are positions in the sky, not constellations. That's the wrong model. Constellations are the wrong model. And then back up to Sagittarius, which is really down for us, and moving back to the Tropic of Capricorn. So the frequency is within the torus itself, and we experience it within the expanse as an apparent sun. But it's not two suns, okay, guys? It's just one sun. You think of it as like a nerve. Like if you have a nerve in your neck, let's say, and you push it and you feel it in your hip or something. Or think of it like a fiber optic cable, a light. The light or the frequency or the wave runs all the way through the entire cable. It's not just one end and then there's something else at the other end. The wave doesn't exist on its own. It's there because there is a vibration happening at the dielectric core. But then we have the sun, the apparent sun. And I promise we're getting to how this all makes sense for a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
I wish people could wrap their minds around it, but this is the geometry of everything. Vectors of space, counter space, and the plane of inertia where life is manifest and grows and decays. It grows and it decays. Necessitatively so. Growth and decay. Kind of like charge and discharge. Capacitance, resistance, magnetic permeability, dielectric permittivity. Centrifugal divergence, centripetal convergence, growth and decay. They all exist along these vectors, the conjugate geometry of the universe, which is the torus and the hyperboloid.
The geometry of the universe, the torus, and the hyperboloid. So here's the hyperboloid here. Here's the torus out here. And then in the center right here is the plane of inertia. This is where our feet reside. So if I was to take this donut shape and turn it that way, then you would see that the plane of inertia is circular because it fills out the totality of the torus field itself. Here's a video of Ken showing the plane of inertia with a magnet, which is the Earth, a magnet.
Nobody's ever seen this before. Right now I'm using forward-looking infrared, staring down into a ferrocell, looking at the plane of inertia, which is the hot point. See, this is one pole of the magnet, this is the other pole of the magnet. This is just my hand reflection right there. But the only heat is coming from the plane of inertia. You see that white line right down the center right there? You are looking at the dielectric inertial plane of a magnet. No one has ever seen this. Very few people have even seen a ferrocell, much less forward-looking infrared looking through a ferrocell. You're actually able to see the plane of inertia that has more heat. Now, this hot spot down here, that's actually my hand reflection, so just ignore that. Holding the forward-looking infrared, so there's nothing down here but my hand reflection. But that's neat. You've seen it here first.
But then everything within the Earth is also its own torus field. So the sun is its own torus field, the stars are their own torus field, the moon, you, just like everything with you, you're a torus field, your eye is a torus field, and every cell within your eye is a torus field. Everything is contained within everything else. So as Ken explained, when you have the legend, you have the primer to the universe, then you can apply the primer to everything. You can apply it to how anything functions, how a seed growing functions, how your body functions, how your health would function, how your consciousness functions. And this is what the Egyptians called all is a tomb, all is one.
You see, light slows down when it passes through water or glass. Sound actually changes speeds or rates of induction when it encounters extremely dense air, with cold air, versus very hot air, which is rarefied, or fog.
This is an app that shows how a sound wave would work. Remember, a wave is just a product of a vibration. So if you imagine this being the sun pushed out at the extremity of the torus field at the top, and then the people in Antarctica are at the extremity of the Earth, and light is no more than a sound wave in the ether, Nikola Tesla says. If we hit play, and that sound wave finds this edge, and then this is where it would be seen or heard. So that's how the wave would be able to be seen in the south midnight Antarctica sun, a 24-hour sun. It's an apparent sun to the apparent sun, which is really just a frequency on an S-curve as it flows through the torus field. So the doming effect that we see when we look out and it just feels like there's a dome out there, it's because the torus itself has a parameter. It ends at a certain point because the energy is coming back in on itself. So it's going out and it's coming back in on itself. So that makes a perimeter. It has an end to it. So when you look out, you are experiencing this dome-like effect. But it doesn't mean that it's a solid structure over your head. It means that you're within the totality of this doming effect. We have globe, spinning globe, concave earth, hollow earth, flat earth, even black sun. These are all metaphors to explain a torus. Globe. Torus field makes this globe-like energy field. It's not a solid structure, but it's an energy field that has this rounded shape to it. And spinning globe, the energy field is right turning. It's a right turning field. Torquing, as explained in the Torah. Specifically, magnetism is the field of the dielectric. Concave earth, you have the bottom of that torus. Hollow earth, you have the dielectric hyperbola of the torus. This is the portal for inertia. Right here, inertia flows in and out. That's the portal right here. Flat earth, you have the level plane of inertia. So if you take a cross section of the torus, cut it in half, you would see that within it is this level plane of inertia that fills out the totality of the torus field. Even black sun is obviously the dielectric core of the torus, right here. In the center, all the whole. Everything comes from a whole, as Ken Wheeler was explaining. So as the energy goes, magnetism goes into the center, into the whole, and through the portal. And this is how the flow of magnetism works. So there aren't poles, but what you have is this flow of magnetism. Out the top is the negative because it's diverging. It's centrifugal going away from the center. And then here is the positive. It's going converging centripetal back into the dielectric. So that's your in and out. So it's not really negative or positive. It's this flow of magnetism. So as this is flowing out, and you have another magnet on this side flowing out and around this way, they will repel away from each other. If you turned it around, they collapse on each other, creating one magnet again. So no matter how many times you take apart a magnet or put it together, it only has this one form. Now, when I speak about the diverging centrifugal and the converging centripetal, and I call it flow, this flow of magnetism is at a rate that we cannot comprehend. It's immediate. It's instantaneously and always happening all the time. We can't comprehend it at all. The only place we're allowed to see and have the chance to comprehend it is right here at the plane of inertia. Inertia means energy at rest. So this would be the place where this flow of energy is slowed to the point where we could study it. For example, the sun is making this cone shape, and the vortex is above it like this. So these symbols were stolen symbols that were describing our universe. So don't get triggered by this sort of stuff. This is what the sun is actually doing, is this triangle cone shape within the expanse, and this is what's happening outside of the expanse up here. So next we're going to look at the crystalline structure. Now that isn't reference to a firmament like a dome over the earth. It's in reference to the crystalline structure of a torus. And here's Ken Wheeler showing those point frequencies within the torus at the junction points. And if you notice, it looks like a net. And here's Stan Tenen explaining the first word of the Bible as a net.
This is the first word of Genesis. Let's look at the first word of Genesis. It's supposed to contain the whole secret. It's supposed to be able to repeat this bait, this basic idea in more detail. So here's the bait, which means in or in the. And then we have this word reshis, which is said to mean at the head of, because the word resh means head. Well, there's another root in here, which is not usually discussed, and that's this root, reshet. Reshet is a woven net, or network. And I'm going to say that the reason the academic statisticians have found letters skip patterns in the Hebrew Bible is because it's a woven document, like a Navajo rug with stripes. And if you unravel it, you get skip patterns on the thread, because that's what the stripes leave. And I'm going to say that that's the kind of coding that was done in the ancient world, and hopefully we'll get to that.
We also have another passage in the New Testament, which obviously isn't the Torah, but it also makes reference to casting your net to the right, meaning the torus itself is a right turning or clockwise flow of magnetism. In that same verse, it references 153 fish. So 153 happens to be the number across this way in a Vesica Pisces. Right here, you can see that fish-like symbol. This obviously is also representing a torus field. You can see the concept of a torus field within it. And also within the torus field, there's a constructive, destructive nature of it. You cannot see the light without the dark. You need them both in order to see the sacred geometry within it. The constructive, destructive nature of the torus is also one, creates one right here in the center. Obviously, the way a cell divides to make a baby. What Stan was showing with the first 10 words of the Bible being a torus field, the first 10 words in the Bible, very common Hebrew coding system is gematria. In gematria, they don't use the zeros. So the first 10 words of the Bible comes out to 1. That's exactly what our entire universe is about. This one form called the torus. It's the primer. It's the key to understanding all things. And when you use it and apply it, you can solve these seemingly impossible happenings within our universe. So the moment I saw the 24-hour Antarctica sun in the full time-lapse video without an edit was the final proof to me that the Earth is indeed a torus field. So within that field, there's multiple things to understand and how the field works, multiple parts within the field, the ones that are the seen and the unseen parts of the field, and understanding the totality of all of it will provide the answers for all these types of happenings going into the future. My name is Nicole. My channel is The Law of the Luminaries on Rumble and The Keystone on Telegram. Come find me.